Hello everyone, welcome back to second part of chapter Yeast Doors. My name is Chef Himraj Patil. I am working at AISSMS College of Hotel Management and Catering Technology, Pune. We will discuss various stages of bread making in this video lecture. Before that, let's recap of last lecture. So in the last lecture we discussed definition of dough and bread. So dough is a mixture that consists of flour and liquid and is stiff enough to knead or roll. And bread is a dough of flour and water cooked usually by baking. Then we saw types of breads. So basically there are two types of breads, leavened breads and unleavened breads. So leavened breads are made by adding yeast or other leavening agent to the dough. Examples are bread roll and sandwich bread. And the second one is unleavened breads. So these breads are baked from a dough of water and flour with no yeast. Then we discussed different type of the ingredients used in yeast doughs. So there are essential ingredients and optional ingredients. I am sure you guys remember that. So essential ingredients are flour, yeast, salt and water. And the optional ingredients are fat, sugar, milk and bread improvers. Then the last part of that lecture was types of yeast doughs. So basically there are two types of doughs. First one is lean dough. So the dough which are low in fat and sugar, and the second one is rich dough which is higher proportion of fat, sugar and sometimes even the eggs are added. And the third one is rolled in doughs which are also is a type of rich dough. The objective of this lecture is to explain various stages in bread making. There are 12 basic steps in the production of yeast breads. Number of stages might change depend upon the type of making method and types of yeast bread. So the 12 stages are: first one is scaling ingredients, second is mixing, third is fermentation, fourth is punching, fifth is scaling, sixth is rounding. Seventh step is benching, eighth is makeup and panning, ninth is proofing, 10th is baking, 11th is cooling, and the last step 12th is storing. Let's discuss all stages in detail. The first stage is scaling ingredients. All ingredients must be weighed accurately. Less or more quantity of ingredient will affect on final product. Water, milk and eggs may be measured by volume. Special care must be taken when measuring spices and other ingredients used in very small quantities. Excess quantities will ruin the product. Mixing yeast doughs has three main purposes. First one is to combine all the ingredients into a uniform smooth dough. Second is to distribute the yeast evenly throughout the dough. Third one is to develop the gluten. Mixing methods used for yeast doughs are straight dough method, salt delay method, no time dough method, sponge and dough method, and last one is ferment and dough method. It will be discussed in detail in the next video. Fermentation is the process by which yeast acts on the sugars and starches in the dough to produce carbon dioxide and alcohol. Doughs with weak gluten such as rye doughs and rich doughs are usually underfermented. It is important to be aware that fermentation continues during the next steps in yeast dough production. Punching is not hitting the dough with your fist. It is a method of deflating the dough that expels carbon dioxide, redistributes the yeast for further growth, and relaxes the gluten. Even it equalizes the temperature throughout the dough. Using a baker's scale, divide the dough into pieces of the same weight according to the product being made. During scaling, allowance is made for weight loss due to evaporation of moisture in the oven. Scaling should be done rapidly and efficiently to avoid over fermenting the dough. After scaling, the pieces of dough are shaped into smooth and round balls. This procedure forms a kind of skin by stretching the gluten on the outside of the dough into a smooth layer. Rounding simplifies the later shaping of the dough and also helps retain gases produced by the yeast. Benching or intermediate proofing. Rounded portions of dough are allowed to rest for 10 to 20 minutes. This relaxes the gluten to make shaping the dough easier. Also, fermentation continues during this time. Makeup and panning. The dough is shaped into loaves or rolls and then placed in pans or on baking sheets. Proper makeup and molding is of critical importance to the finished baked product. All gas bubbles should be expelled during molding. Bubbles left in the dough will result in large air holes in the baked product. Proofing is a continuation of the process of yeast fermentation that increases the volume of the shaped dough. Proofing temperatures are generally higher than fermentation temperatures. Underproofing results in poor volume and dense texture. Overproofing results in coarse texture and some loss of flavors. Generally, breads are baked in conventional oven or combi ovens. Rapid rising of bread in the oven due to production and expansion of trapped gases as a result of the oven heat is called oven spring. The yeast is very active at first but is killed when the temperature inside the dough reaches 60 degrees Celsius. Then coagulation of proteins and gelatinization of starches starts. In other words, the product becomes firm and holds its shape. Crust starts forming and browning. In order to control the baking process, the following factors should be considered: oven temperature and baking time, washes, cutting or scoring, loading the ovens, and steam generated during baking. Second last stage is cooling. After baking, bread must be removed from pans and cooled on racks to allow the escape of the excess moisture and alcohol created during fermentation. Small rolls spaced on baking sheets are often cooled on the pans when air circulation is adequate. On the other hand, if condensation is likely to make the bottom of the roll soggy, it is better to cool them on racks. If soft rolls are desired, breads may be brushed with melted shortening before cooling. Last stage is storing. Breads to be served within 8 hours may be left on racks. For longer storage, wrap cooled breads in moisture-proof bag to retard staling. Bread must be thoroughly cooled before wrapping or moisture will collect inside the bags. Wrapping and freezing maintains quality for longer periods. Refrigeration, on the other hand, increases staling. Hard crusted breads should not be wrapped unless frozen because the crust will soften and become leathery. The references used for preparing this video lecture. Please watch part 3 of yeast doughs in the next video lecture. Thank you very much for watching the video.